You're listening to The Business of Glamping and Unique Holiday Rentals, Episode 8. Today, I'm talking to my special guest about techniques that we can all apply to convert our audience into paying customers. So, let's get started. Glamping and unique holiday rentals are surging in popularity with the growing desire of customers to book holidays that deliver an experience. They are also the new business of choice for those wanting to improve their work-life balance. So how do you build a strong business like this that gives you the life you need and a great investment? I'm Sarah Riley, and I want to share what I've discovered after being immersed in this industry for over 20 years to inspire you to find out more about what's going on. Welcome, this is The Business of Glamping and Unique Holiday Rentals. Hello, and thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is all about helping to give you a master plan, for want of a better description, to help you achieve your greater success with your glamping business or unique holiday rental. And that's why I've been inviting many guests onto the show to share their experiences with you. Experiences that can really help you to understand what it takes to get the quick success that you need to have the quick success to really make a difference. And I'm very pleased to introduce to you today Cameron Darcy, who runs Sierra Escapes with his partner Natasha. They have a beautiful setup over in Australia. He's going to tell you more about that. But one of the things that he does remarkably well is using the imagery and videos in what he does to create an emotional response amongst those who are watching it, to really get them engaged with what they offer at Sierra Escapes, to help them feel emotionally attached to it, and as though they can really imagine themselves there. They can really imagine themselves booking a holiday and staying at Sierra Escapes and enjoying everything that the imagery and the content they provide displays. It's a really clever use of quoting and other techniques to really get into the thoughts of the potential customer. So Cameron's most recent one is talking about never lose your sense of wonder and travel, and really encourages the viewer to get back in touch with their own wanderlust and to want to escape into the big, wide open countryside, in particularly the one that they offer at Sierra Escapes. But they don't particularly say that directly. And this is the really interesting thing. What they're doing is really trying to help inspire people to get back outside, back into nature, and engaging in the lifestyle that glamping services can provide, but without actually openly and directly selling. It's a really modern way of marketing, and we can all learn heaps from Cameron and Natasha and everything that they've got to talk about. So that's why I'm really pleased to introduce him on the show today, and I know you're going to get an awful lot from what he's got to share. And so without further ado, I'm going to hop over to the interview now. So Cam, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much for taking some time to have a chat across the big seas, well, around the other side of the world. How are you doing? You okay?
I'm really well, thank you, and thanks so much for having me. And it is nice to talk to people on the opposite side of the world. So thanks for having me on the podcast.
You're my second guest from Australia, and I love the fact that glamping in Australia is really, well, it's really kind of getting really exciting, the amount of projects that are starting up over there. And from your perspective, is that what you're seeing? Are you seeing that it's starting to grow and populate?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really exciting time in that space in Australia, and I think much like people have noticed up in places like Iceland and Greenland and Norway, where you have these amazing immersive landscapes. I think that similar kind of trend is starting to take place in Australia, where we do have some amazing vistas and some fantastic landscapes, and so people are really starting to create experiential accommodation experiences. They're moving away from traditional hotels and motels that are there simply to serve an area, and they're creating destinations within themselves. And I know, you mentioned the second Australian, the other one, I'm assuming being Sunny from Bubble Tents, who's a good friend of ours, and their accommodation offering is a classic example of placing you in an environment and making that environment the hero rather than the accommodation itself.
And I love that's what you're doing over there. And but first of all, let's tell the listeners. Can you tell me who you are, what a little bit about you, and what you do?
Absolutely. So I'm Cameron Darcy, and I live in Sydney, Australia. I'm 31 years old. My wife and I both started Sierra Escape, which is located about 4 hours drive out of Sydney City, in a place called Mudgee, which is a beautiful wine region full of cafes, restaurants, beautiful landscape, really cool people. And we started Sierra because essentially we fell in love with the area, and we wanted to create an accommodation experience that was different. It was unique. It would get people talking, and get people out of the city and into the country, to be able to forget all their worries and their stresses for a while and come and relax with us, and really provide an experience of Mudgee that we had personally ourselves when we first went to Mudgee.
Yeah, and we met in California. And as what usually happens when you meet people at these big events and you swap business cards and you shake hands, say hi and everything, you then go back, when you get back into the office, you kind of go through websites and have a look and see what they're all about and what they're doing. And when I looked at your website, I realized that I'd seen it before. And I don't know how our paths had crossed, but they had. And I remember back then, some time ago now, I'd seen some of the visuals that you've been using on your website to promote your business. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you today, because you're actually taking a very unique approach to getting an atmosphere, a feeling into your viewers, the people who are visiting your website, to encourage them to visit your site and maybe become your customer in the future. And you've particularly got a new video at the moment. And I kind of wanted to talk to you today about how your project had evolved and your ultimate aims for it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks so much for the kind words. I guess my, to kind of to give you the full sort of idea of where we came from and how we arrived with the visuals that we use in our marketing. I should also share to give listeners a bit of a background that I own a video production company, and that's sort of my background is in directing commercial films and short films, content. That kind of work, and I own the production company I have now. I've had for about 6 years, and I've grown it from just myself and my business partner to what it is now, where we have 7 full-time staff and contractors, and we film projects all over the world for different brands and different companies. We do a lot of work in Fiji, in Hawaii. We've worked in Norway, Scotland, New Zealand, Bali. So that's something I'm really passionate about, and it's that business that's really allowed us to move into other businesses and invest capital in time elsewhere. So I guess really from the outset of Sierra Escape, it was really important to have very strong visuals, both video and stills. So even before the tent existed, I had my drone up on the property, getting really nice imagery of the scenery and wildlife and all that kind of stuff. And I cut together a little 30-second, very simple video kind of teasing to the fact that something was coming to Mudgee in 2017. And so then once we launched, we took a lot of photos, and because I've got a bit of a background in photography as well, it was very accessible for me to the equipment, and to be able to take these photos. And one feedback we got from a lot of the publications and blogs, magazines that we approached, when we launched, and probably in a very similar fashion to what you spoke with Sunny about, the feedback we got from those people was wow, the imagery, like it really told a story about the property. It drew them in, and they wanted to write about it and share that with their readers. So I think if there's one thing that we do quite strong in, it's definitely our marketing. And we are fortunate in that I do have that background. And we also have, beautiful landscape to be able to photograph and all that kind of things. So that's kind of where it all really started. And then I guess as we grew more, we sort of got a year and a half in, or almost 2 years in. And I kind of went, well, this is a bit silly. I own a production company and I don't really have a dedicated video for Sierra. I had one that I'd created for Mudgee a couple of years ago, but before the tents existed, but I didn't have a really strong one on Sierra. So I basically sat down, wrote a script, got a bunch of my top crew together and went out there and spent a few days shooting something, which is what we have now. And that video really is to tell the story of the experience, not necessarily the story of how Sierra became about or why we created it, more the story of the experience you get when you arrive there, and to paint a picture not only of Sierra, but of what it is to travel and what it is to step outside your comfort zone and experience something different.
Yeah, you were the writer. Is that what you were saying? You actually wrote the script?
Yeah, I basically drew the inspiration on the script from a bunch of very well-known travel quotes, and I sort of took a whole bunch of them and changed them and mashed them together and created, what sort of in my head was like an inspirational speech from an old university lecturer talking about why we as people, why we love to travel and why we love to get away. So when you listen to it, the only time we mention Sierra Escape is right at the end of the voiceover. There's nowhere in the script that even really talks about glamping or Sierra or Mudgee for that fact. It's more about drawing that want in people out, that they want to, they want to leave behind the 9 to 5. They want to leave behind the normality of their lives, and they want to experience something new and different, and have an experience where they can tell their friends and their family about, and almost like bragging rights, and put it on their Instagram, put it on their Facebook, and go, this is what we did. What a great time we had. And so it's that feeling I was trying to get into the video itself. So when people watch it, of course, the desire we want is for people to go in and book at Sierra Escape. But even if they don't do that and they watch that video and go, oh, I want to go somewhere, I want to go anywhere that's different, and I want to go somewhere that's new, that's the desired effect that I wanted from that video.
And you get it, absolutely. I mean, for the listeners, I am going to be putting this into the show notes, so that people can see exactly what we're talking about. But just I got a couple of snippets here from what the narrator says. So it's all about, why do we travel? And travel turns you into a storyteller, and money returns, but time doesn't. And we travel not to escape life, but for life not to escape us. And it makes you feel irrelevant and alive at the same time. And we weren't born just to pay bills and grow old. And never lose your sense of wonder and travel. And so everything that you've got there is so atmospheric, and you've got all the imagery that goes with it as well, which is people who are enjoying your service and everything that you provide in a really beautiful way. So it's not actually saying, yes, we have hot tubs, or yes, we have a beautiful comfortable bed, or a beautiful scenery. You're actually showing it, and with all of the atmosphere that comes from the narrator, who is absolutely brilliant, I would have to say. And it really, at the end of it, I was going, yeah, that's me. That's what I want to do. I want to go traveling. I want to go to Australia. I want to go to Mudgee. So you
Well,
had
that's awesome.
absolutely the right effect on me, for sure.
Oh, look, that's great, and that's the effect that I want to have on people. And I guess I've always been a really big believer in not pushing brands down people's throats, and I obviously spend a majority of my time making videos and ads for other people, and time and time again, I see clients putting their logo front and center, or being so literal about their advertising. And I think if you can have confidence in your brand, that I'm gonna show visuals absolutely from the brand. I want to show people what it is, but like I said, I didn't show a logo or have a name until right at the end of the video, because I wanted to drum up that sense of desire and wanderlust, to get people driven to travel, and then right at the end go, and this is who we are, and come and travel to us.
Absolutely. And so one of my things that I'm saying all the time to myself, my mantra myself, is that we rise by lifting others. So if we lift others and make them feel good, then that helps us rise. And so that's what I found in your work, that it's very inspirational. It made me feel lifted. It made me feel positive and really good. And that would, as a result, I'd only come to your website one time before, but I remembered you. I remembered who you were and where you were, even though, the connections made when we actually finally met in California. So it's quite interesting how that works. And I often say to people, facts tell, but stories sell. So stories are so important in everything that we do. And like you were saying there about, people put their logos to maybe sell too much or whatever. And there is a place for that, but it's a certain place for that. And so to be able to tell the story, that's going to sell so much more. But from your perspective, what's the most important elements you think that people should get right when they're trying to develop their own visuals for a glamping business? Because obviously you are coming to this with a lot of background and a strong business sense about what you should do. And not everyone has that. And they do have to commission other people to do it, or they have to come up with the ideas themselves without so much experience. Do you have any tips, really easy tips, that people could use to try to develop their own approach?
Look, it is a really tricky one, because marketing, I feel, often does get neglected, and it's because it can be a bit of a long game in the return, particularly in video. I think people can see a direct correlation between SEO or Google AdWords or paid Facebook marketing, and all those things are quite accessible, and for very low fees you can pay people to do those things. The costly things are creating a brand and designing a beautiful website, designing a logo, taking beautiful photos, and all those things I would say are far more important in the long run than things like direct marketing. But particularly in small business, you spend a lot of money and time and effort in developing the product and trying to get customers in through the door and all that kind of stuff, that often the marketing gets sort of, and the branding gets sort of pushed to the side or done on the cheap. And, in previous businesses that I've had, I was a sucker for jumping on one of those logo design websites and paying someone $300 to come up with a logo. But in the case of, Brightworks, my production company, and Sierra Escape and Abingdon House, we paid a designer to sit down and talk to us about our brand and what we wanted to convey to the viewer. And we worked with him closely to develop our branding. And that, you see that really strongly through all of our marketing collateral. I've seen businesses pay $80,000 to $100,000 to develop their branding, and they end up with very strong branding. Now, I'm definitely not saying go out and spend $100,000 on your branding if you're a small business. If you're a large business, then absolutely, then go for gold. But investing a few $1,000s as opposed to a few $100s does make a huge difference in the long run. I mean, I'd say for people that, you know, are funding everything themselves, is definitely, there's two places you want to spend money straight up on your marketing. It's your branding and your logo design, and your photos. Video is a fantastic tool, and you know, I'm very fortunate that you know, I have that background, and I can do a lot of it myself. So I can create that content at a fraction of the cost that other people would. But unfortunately, unless you know, at the end of the day, you get what you pay for. So if you only spend a couple of $1,000s for someone with a small camera to come and create a video for you, it might serve a purpose to a degree, but it's not going to have the cut through. You're not going to tell the story. You're better off investing that $2,000 to $3,000 in good photography, and have that tell your story. And then once you get a little bit bigger, and you've got more capacity and more income, then there's the time to be able to invest, you know, a substantial lot more money into video. And the other thing about video is that it's not just enough to have it sit on your website, although that is key. And like you said, it helps people remember you. It helps people drag customers into the business. You need to get that video out in front of eyeballs. And in today's landscape, there is so much content and so much advertising being bombarded to people every day through phones, on trains, on buses, on Facebook, on Instagram. Everywhere you look, there's marketing. So to be able to get cut through and be able to get in front of people, you need to pay a substantial amount of money to get that video playing before pre-roll or on Facebook or whatever it might be. So there's the investment in the video itself, but then there's continual investment after that to get it out to people, or you most as well throw $30,000 down the drain, because it'll just sit on your website and people that are already looking at your business will see it, which is good. It's not a waste of money, but you really need to make that video work. It has to be out in front of people, drawing them into your business.
Have you found a way that particularly works in that sense?
Look, I think this is where it gets a little bit sort of media heavy in terms of knowing what media works and what doesn't. A lot of people will say that Facebook is on the way out, and they could very well be right. We still get a lot of cut through and a lot of conversion through Facebook, through sponsored Facebook marketing, as well as organic social posts. So I think organically, that video, when I posted it, I think it had something like 5,000 to 6,000 views organically. And then since that, we've put a very small amount of money behind it to get it out in front of more people. I think off the top of my head, it's around the 12,000 to 13,000 view mark and still growing. I think Instagram is another big one, particularly for visuals. Instagram is massive. We've done a little bit of sponsored YouTube pre-roll as well, which has been okay, not as strong as I would like. But again, YouTube's one of those things where, you know, you're competing against huge brands, and particularly in the travel space, you're competing against international destinations who are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to get their content in front of people. So to get that sort of, cut through, it's costly. So you have to be smart about it. You need to do your research, but there's plenty of articles and resources online, online courses in online digital marketing that can teach you those kinds of things.
I'm interested and curious, have you used Pinterest by any chance?
I'm aware of Pinterest. We've never used it as a social media platform. I guess and this is probably my lack of understanding of the platform, is that its connectedness, it kind of seems, although you can obviously hook it into things like Facebook and Instagram, it sort of sits on its own thing. So I haven't used it. It's something I need to explore more. I don't really know too much more about it.
Yeah, I'm only asking because I ask everyone what platforms they use and what they have success with. And from my own experience as well, Pinterest has been incredible. that it's a place where I have, for Inspired Camping, I have the least amount of followers, but I have the most amount of click-throughs and traffic.
Yeah, wow.
So
Amazing. Yeah, it's something definitely worth looking into for sure.
yeah, it's certainly one you should put on your list of things to do anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, that's the thing as well at the moment, is that everything's changing so rapidly that
Yeah.
it's not enough to do something for a year and go, okay, I'm just going to keep doing that for the next 3. Everything changes so frequently that you have to keep up on what people are using and what people are doing. I'm very fortunate that I'm exposed to that every day, because I'm working with advertising agencies and media agencies. So to a degree, I just see what they're doing with various different businesses and rinse and repeat. So I'm very lucky that, these guys are going to seminars all the time, and they're meeting with Facebook and Google, every second week. So I'm very privy to a lot of, quite helpful information. But that information is out there. You just need to look for it and be aware of it. And I think people, I think they just hear about it and start doing something because it's what everyone else is doing. But people do fall behind pretty quickly.
Yeah, and each platform is good for different things. So Facebook is known to be a place where customers who may be thinking of buying may check out the business on Facebook to see if their Facebook page is up to date, and if it looks like they're really, before they hand over their money, if they are a business that are working daily and maybe putting posts up and are active. And then you've got Twitter, which is really fast, and it's something to maybe use while you're watching television or something that might be about glamping, or where you can grow a community. But it's very fast. It comes and goes. And whereas YouTube, it's there all the time and it will constantly be getting traffic. It doesn't go. It doesn't go down the line. People can find you, and it will suddenly, you may find, as I did with one of my videos, suddenly I found that I was getting a lot more hits out of nowhere, and I didn't know where they were coming from. And it turned out it's coming from YouTube. And that was something I hadn't expected. And again, Pinterest, unexpectedly, people will share your content that you share on Pinterest. And if somebody who sees that, then it going through their feed or their Pinterest when they're looking at for certain things to pin to their boards, and they want to find out more about what you've just pinned to it, they just need to click on the image and it will take them straight to the place that sourced the image. So that could be your website, it could be from wherever it's come from, YouTube. So it's a really interesting little place to generate a following or generate some traffic. But yeah, every
I guess in the travel space as well, people, if they're using Pinterest, they're usually, from my understanding, using it for inspiration for different things. Now that might be for a work purpose or whatever, but I think a lot of people use it to go as, these are the places I want to travel to in the next 5 years, or this is my inspiration for my honeymoon. So I think in that sense, making sure that your content is on there is probably pretty important.
So when people are actually putting together, maybe thinking about or having a plan for the visuals they're going to have on their own business, whether that's video or images or storytelling like you have within one of your videos, are there any maybe 1 or 2 tips or 3 tips that you would suggest people do in terms of thinking that through and planning it?
I guess a couple of tips I'd have is the first one being think about the reaction you want from the viewer. Are you trying to impress them with the view? Are you trying to get the viewer to picture themselves in that environment? Are you trying to advertise a sale or a discount special? So you really got to think about what you're trying to convey to the viewer. I think also think about the kind of imagery that you want. Now, it could be something as similar to what we've done in terms of telling a story about travel and really creating a strong emotional hook within the viewer. It might be as simple as a little social video on your phone that you just want to post on Facebook and Instagram. So I guess it's really thinking about what effect you want to have, and then sort of go from there. There's definitely not one size fits all or one sort of tip is suitable for everybody. It really just comes down to what's going to work best for your audience and potential customers, and what you think is going to have the strongest effect on the business. So for us personally, we have a few different kinds of visuals. We have little videos that I might do when I'm up there on my phone, or I might borrow from visitors that have stayed, and often they take little nice little videos, and you can reach out to them and say, hey, I loved your photos or your videos, would you mind if we shared them and tagged you in it? And I've never once had someone say, no, I don't want that. And I think when people are sharing content, they love getting likes on their stuff as much as we do. So there's a really nice plethora of content that you can really borrow from. So there's that style of content. And then there's also our, product hero imagery, which most of the time won't have people in the shots. And then occasionally there will be an odd shot here or there, which will have people in the content. But I find for website content, having empty frames, just product shots, it kind of it shows what the product is. And when people are on your website, that's sort of they're already interested, so they want to see what it is they're going to be getting if they pay what they're paying for. When it comes to social content and content that you want people to be tagging their friends in, liking, sharing, we personally try to have as many photos with people in it. Now that might be paid talent, or it might be user generated content. But I think that's really important because people can then imagine themselves. So they'll be scrolling through, Facebook, and then they'll see a photo of a girl in the bathtub with an excellent view behind them, and it'll be a thumb stopper, and they'll stop scrolling. They go, "Oh, that's what I want to be, that person." So that photography doesn't necessarily have to be as premium high quality. It can often just be shot on a phone, and that's where we often really lean on either user-generated content or arranging with influencers in the Facebook and Instagram space to go and stay there and get a free couple of nights in exchange for a couple of posts and some content. Now, those posts, as we've learned, and this is a whole nother topic, but those posts won't necessarily lead to their followers converting over to your followers and liking your business. And it really, we've had many influencers stay and really only a few where we've had really good cut through with their audience. But if you find influencers that create really nice content, then that gives you, 5, maybe 10 images from their stay that you can then use on your own socials across the rest of the year. And we've got one literally that's happening at the moment. We have an influencer staying who is definitely not the highest, the largest following that we've had stay, but certainly the highest cut through and the highest amount of audience that's come across. And on top of that, she's generated some really nice content as well. So we've got those visuals that we can use, and plus we're getting the audience cut through, but it's not always the case.
It's actually the subject of the topic that I spoke about at the Glamping Summit, which was about how some influencers, they may have a huge following, but it doesn't mean that following is engaged and are going to act on what they're sharing. And so having those statistics and percentages about those influencers with the most engaged audience is really vital to getting the right influencer staying with you. But it is the new way, isn't it, of people being able to promote their business on a very small budget, and it seems to be getting a lot of traction.
Absolutely. And your talk at the summit, to be honest, was one I actually got a lot out of. And I learned a bit about the influencer tools and the Instagram, where you can sort of see what their sort of engagement levels are, which I didn't know about before. So I've actually since that used a fair bit of those, which have been really cool. But yeah, it's interesting because it was something we'd certainly noticed, but not really known why. Then we heard your talk at the summit. it really sort of got us thinking about the kinds of audience that those people had. And since then, what we've realized is that some of those ones with, say, 500,000 followers, that audience might be engaged, and their engagement percentages might be up there on one of those tools, but that's for their content. And a lot of those people, in our example anyway, the one that I'm referring to, their audience is a much younger audience because they're young, they're traveling around, they're seeing all these photos of amazing places, and they're liking the photos as they're scrolling through, but they know, or maybe deep down they know that one day they like to travel there, but they don't have the money to travel there right now. So they're not going to go through and like the page or like your content because they just like the photo. They're like, oh, one day it'd be great to travel there, but they park it. Whereas, say, an influencer that might have 50,000 followers, but she might be in her mid-30s, and her audience are young mothers, who have corporate jobs, and their husbands, they're two incomes, and that, their children maybe haven't started schooling yet, so they still have a lot of discretionary income. So they see the photo, like it, but then they say, oh, I want to look at that for our anniversary trip or a birthday weekend away, or then those are the people that will come over and start following your page and interacting with your content as well. So it's the engagement levels and the scoring on the influencers is super important, but also who their audience is and does it align with who your target market is.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So what's next for you and your business? What are you planning next? What's coming up?
We've got some really exciting things happening at Sierra. We've gone from 0 to 3 tents in about 18 months. We're now sort of 6 months into our previous 2 tents, which we're really excited about, and they're booking really well. We're doing another 2 tents out there. That'll take us to 5. Which we're really excited about. And they're basically the same as what we've done before, but we're doing a few things a little bit differently, which is cool, and taking some lessons that we've learned from our experience thus far. We're also putting in in the next couple of years a big yoga deck and swimming pool. So really kind of again, further create that destination unto itself within the retreat, which we're really excited about. There's also a few other sort of tricks up our sleeve in the sort of medium to long-term future at Sierra as well, which we're really excited about and kind of in very early planning stages for now. And then we've also acquired some land very close to Sierra that we're looking at doing another sort of accommodation business in the next sort of 1 to 2 years. Which is similar but different again. So just trying to create unique accommodation offerings that people can get excited about.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, I'm definitely going to be including all the information that people need to find out more in the show notes. But tell us now how people can find out more about you and where they need to go.
Well, look, I think if people want to know more, then jump on our website, which is sierraescape.com.au. Head to our Facebook page, to our Instagram. If you've got questions about the retreat or about us, then always feel free to drop us an email or get in touch via one of those. My wife and I, Tash, look after all the guest communication ourselves. So we're there, always happy to answer questions, and we just love being involved.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Cam, for your time today. I'm sure people have found it incredibly interesting, and I can't wait to, find out more about what you're up to in the future and see more of your amazing videos.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks so much for having me. It's been awesome chatting.
You're very welcome. Take care. Bye.
Cool. Thank you. Bye.
Even though I use technology in my business every day, it still amazes me that I can speak to someone on the other side of the world and then broadcast it to you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this and found it useful, then please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Check out the show notes on inspiredcamping.com/ and put the number of the episode to find the notes, or just put inspiredcamping.com/podcasts. You can also check out my signature course, From Overwhelmed to Overbooked, a masterclass teaching you the secrets to attracting more guests and commission-free bookings. That's on inspiredcourses.com. And remember, we have a wonderful, supportive and generous community over on Facebook. If you want to join that community, the welcome mat is always there and we'd love to see you in the group. Take care.